I have never, ever, ever seen anything like this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I've never been on a farm.
It's okay. Hi, little Bubba.
We want people to understand that you owe it to yourself to take some type of responsibility in stewarding the things that you have been given. There needs to be some transparency and integrity in the field. Farming here on this land, even though it's very challenging, is peaceful.
I'm Stevie Van Horn, and I'm a climate and social justice activist. Recently, I drove down to North Carolina to meet up with Paige and Derrick Jackson, two farmers who are rethinking how we raise livestock from the ground up, with climate and community in mind.
So we are a pasture-raised farm. We like to say grass-fed, raised right. We are a regenerative farm, which means that we follow practices to regenerate the soil, and our animals eat grass, and that's it.
That's amazing. So can you tell us kind of the seed of thought of how this whole thing started?
After about 14 years in the military, I discovered that I was having some medical issues. There was no reason why I should have been sick. You know, comes to find out, I was eating some stuff that wasn't responding well to my body. And after we looked into it, Paige was like, hey, you know, I think there may be something with the milk. You know, it'd be 70 degrees outside. I was like, why am I feel like I have a cold? So after that, we just felt like we needed to be more responsible in the things that we're consuming. It required us to investigate where this stuff is actually coming from. So not just looking at the label, but looking at what's actually in this. After figuring out that there was no transparency there, we started looking on Facebook and Instagram for like local farms and went to a farmer's market. There was one guy, and he was a chicken farmer, and you know, we were so excited. We bought some chickens from him. You know, everything worked out. Then he ran out of chicken.
Oh,
Yeah,
ran
out of chicken. And which is a family of 8 of us in the house. It was like, wait a minute, where are we supposed to get our chicken from? And then I said, hey, well, I think I'm gonna try to grow some myself. So we started researching. And
Okay, wait, I have to stop you. That's not how it went. All right, so this is what really happened. One day, Derrick sends me this text message, like, hey, so I did a thing. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
So now we're going down to the chicken coop.
Oh, man.
I've never seen anybody gather chicken eggs. I've never seen what it would look like. So I'm eager to see what's gonna happen.
Well, just so you know, when you have laying hens, you typically have to gather twice a day. In the
Okay.
morning and then in the afternoon.
Okay. Is this like the OG coop that you
Yeah,
had?
this is this is nothing fancy.
Oh, you have an egg!
We have an egg! We can eat it for breakfast.
What was the initial thought of wanting to start something so where people can understand where their food's coming from?
I think it really started with us having a question of like, man, where is our food really coming from? I was pregnant with my 5th kid. So I was already on that, kick of like, all right, I don't think we need to be eating meat or anything for that matter. And Derrick would always be like, you can't just stop cutting. You can't cut out everything. But no, I think that we've all kind of trained ourselves to have a certain standard of the way that food should look and the way that food should be presented. But that's not really the reality. People want like these super large chicken breasts, but at the same time, it's like, well, what did it take for that bird to get that big? So you're just not gonna get this like immaculate, huge, unless you're feeding them things that they may not need.
So how can you tell the difference between an actual organic, grass-fed, free-range egg and then one that isn't, but they say that it is?
In the grocery store, everything looks the same. Everything's identical.
I know.
And that's for a reason. It's not an accident. We always say like, know your farmer, know your food. And that's legit. Like if you know your farmer, the chances are you're gonna have a better relationship about your food and what's in your food, how it's being raised, and what's on your plate. I mean, I'm a mother of 5, so like I'm really picky about what goes on our dinner table. So even from the produce that I buy, like I buy it from a local farmer. And I know that everyone doesn't have that luxury, but I just would encourage people to like try to find that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing a consumer can do is do their research on
Yeah.
what systems that they support for
Right.
sure.
Everyone should raise chickens, in my opinion. I call them the gateway drug for farming.
When you start raising chickens, then you're like, well, maybe I could raise something else. This is kind of great.
The passion developed because it was one thing after another. It's just like, okay, well, we got to do this. We got to build a chicken tractor. Like, what does that mean? Like, how do I build this thing? And
We
like,
had to learn everything. We really
Yeah.
didn't know. So then the pigs came after the chicken.
These bigger guys are not gonna wait.
they're not really gonna wait. They're coming.
Let's go.
Now we have to feed the mamas.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Farewell. Oops. Sorry about that, Gaio.
You got to be fast. Go for it. Go for it.
They are so big.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. Now they're gonna fight, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour. If you want to grab that other bucket,
Yeah.
this is where they live. We came through and trimmed out the trees, thinned them out. Now that the sun is able to come through, we'll get grass if we
Right.
seed, and then I can bring the cattle. They'll be able to come and graze through here.
And
So-
what's the importance of having the grass so the cattle can come graze?
After like 2 or 3 times of the pigs coming through alone, it kind of stops growing back and it kind of turns to weeds. But if you bring chickens through, the chickens will come through and they'll eat what's left behind, scratch through it. We bring the cows through as well. You know, they drop their saliva and they're dropping their manure, which is our natural fertilizer here. It's just a whole cycle. So not only does the ground benefit from it, but the pigs also benefit from it, and we do as well.
What's the difference between this system and a factory farming system?
So the difference is, what do you smell? This is the most you're gonna smell.
It doesn't smell really at all.
The pigs, I mean, look at what they have done. If you just look around, like you'll see that they've dug up trees and roots back there.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they do that, and it's not just because they like disturbing things.
Yeah.
It's because they're looking for something, like, and they're eating. So even if I wasn't out here with food, if we let them loose, they will come and eat all the grass. They'll mess with the roots. Some of the roots they leave alone, and then some they eat, and that's probably because, hey, there's something in there for them. So.
The whole point is to regenerate the earth back into its original state.
Exactly, right? And the grass is sprouted up there. Like, that's where the pigs were last year. That's the first spot. Believe it or not, we went from a 1/4 acre to 77 acres.
Whoa.
And that was actually in 6 months.
And now that you guys have gotten this location to grow,
Yes.
how has that been for you?
We only focused on the essential things like buying the best feed, getting a good breed of pigs.
Yeah.
And now this year we're focusing on infrastructure. And this is only year 2, so it's
So
like
crazy.
And now being here is like, what was I thinking? This is so hard. There's a lot that goes into it. But as the grass has grown and looking at, you know, the animals and just how happy our animals are and how happy our customers are, it's all worth it.
You're not taking any shortcuts.
No
right?
shortcuts,
Yeah.
no.
I think stewardship is a really big part of really what we're trying to do. We're taking the initiative and trying to better the planet that we live in.
I mean, if anybody has been watching the news, you've seen the flooding, you've seen the topsoil that has been running down the Mississippi River, and you've seen droughts in places where you normally wouldn't see droughts, flooding in places that you normally wouldn't see flooding. And those things are happening because of the lack of concern of how we're stewarding our land, right?
So we are regenerative farmers. The farming that we're doing is with intention. So when it comes to if this is a response to the globe or to the earth, I would say that we as stewards, and we're farmers, I would say that I think everyone has a responsibility. And even though this is our life and this is what we do for a living, I would encourage everyone to take the charge to almost take ownership in what it looks like to be a steward of the earth.
So we started with 25 chickens.
Okay.
And now we've upgraded to doing thousands of meat birds.
Wow.
We're probably gonna do about 8,000 this season.
How was the transition for you, going from such a small load to managing so many?
I mean, I think it's kind of more of the same in some ways, but I think it's magnified for sure because there's so many. I think when you're doing this type of work, you start to really value a life and seeing what that means.
As parents, I mean, sometimes I wonder, why was I gifted with all of these kids? Like, I love my kids, but sometimes I'm like, really? Did you like I could handle all this responsibility? And I think when you are running a farm, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it is a gift and a blessing to be able to steward creation in this way, because to be able to say, like, we're caring after these creatures from birth to finish is just a really beautiful picture. So yeah, like, we take that really seriously, and hopefully that's something that we're instilling in our practices and what we're trying to do.
Thank you, guys.
This is a kale salad topped with our eggs that we gathered from the barn.
How does that feel, growing your own food and being able to put it on the table?
I think it's a sense of pride, like knowing that we raise our food from start to finish is a pretty cool thing. And not everyone can say they do that.
The first time that we ate a chicken that we raised at our home, it just changed things. It's just like, man, we did this. Like, we raised this, and it is so fulfilling.
I mean, that's what I love about you guys, is that, you know, you had this really fun and lighthearted passion project with the chicken coops, and then it just somehow snowballed and into a flourishing business where now you can, you know, feed your family, you can feed your friends, your neighbors, your community, and you're helping the planet as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect example of an individual being able to make a difference with the power that they have. So what's the future of grass-fed in the scope of, you know, how you want to tackle climate change, or how you want to be a steward of the environment, or whatever that looks like?
I think when we're talking about the message of sustainability, we don't want to just have sustainability within our practices. I mean, that's crucial, but also being sustainable means the world around us, right? So, like, that's our employees, that's our family, that's everything. It's not just this one piece of the pie. So as we continue to grow, we want to grow in a way that, like Derrick said, doesn't compromise those values. I think the way that we can cultivate change is by working together. And the more of us that are working together in this way, I think we will set the example and the standard for hopefully cultivating change.
Yeah, we're farmers, but we're both business people, but we're also educators. It's like, sure, no, my small farm cannot feed the world, right? But 20 small farms can feed this county. If we can sustain our own county, educate enough individuals, you can run a sustainable farm, a regenerative farm. You don't have to be in North Carolina. We're just trying to educate and inspire others to change their community. And if we inspire enough of those, they'll do the same thing. And we're not trying to do it alone, though. We're trying to cultivate our communities.